The streets of Joppa were never truly silent. Merchants shouted across crowded markets, fishermen hauled dripping nets from the sea, children ran barefoot through narrow stone alleys, while the smell of bread and salt water drifted through the city air. But hidden behind one modest wooden door was a woman whose quiet work would echo farther than the voices in the marketplace. Her name was Tabitha. In Greek, they called her Dorcas. Most people in Joppa knew her, not because she preached loudly or stood before crowds, but because she noticed people others ignored. The widow with torn clothing, the orphan shivering during cold nights, the old fisherman too poor to replace his cloak. Tabitha saw them all, and she carried a needle. Each morning, before the city awakened, Tabitha would sit beside the small window of her humble home. Golden sunlight slipped through the shutters as she threaded wool and linen with careful hands, stitch after stitch, thread through fabric, quiet work, simple work, holy work. She did not know that heaven was recording every act of kindness. When a grieving widow knocked at her door, Tabitha listened. When hungry children wandered nearby, Tabitha shared what little food she had. When someone needed clothes, she worked late into the night sewing garments by candlelight. The people of Joppa often wondered how one woman with so little could give so much. Yet Tabitha never sought recognition. She never demanded applause. She never imagined her story would one day be told across generations. Because true influence rarely announces itself, it simply serves. As months passed, the poor began to smile whenever they heard her footsteps. Widows treasured the robes she made with her own hands. Lonely people discovered that kindness still existed in a hard world. Tabitha's needle repaired more than fabric, it repaired hearts. And though many powerful names from that time have been forgotten, heaven remembered hers. Then one terrible day, everything changed. Tabitha became sick. At first, people thought she would recover, but her condition worsened quickly. The woman who had comforted so many now lay weak and pale upon her bed. The house grew crowded with worried neighbors. Prayers filled the room. Tears stained weary faces. And then, Tabitha died. A heavy silence settled over Joppa. The widows wept openly. Some clutched the garments she had made for them years earlier. Others remembered the meals she had shared when they had nothing. For the first time, the city realized how deeply one quiet life had touched them all. Not through fame, not through wealth, but through consistent acts of love. The believers carefully washed her body and placed her in an upstairs room. Word quickly spread that Simon Peter was nearby in Lydda. 2 men were sent immediately. "Please come at once," they begged him. Peter arrived before nightfall. As he entered the upper room, grieving widows surrounded him. One by one, they held up the tunics and garments Tabitha had sewn for them. "Look what she made for me. She helped me when no one else cared. She remembered me." Their tears told the story of a woman whose faith had become visible through compassion. Peter looked around the room, not at riches, not at trophies, but at evidence of love stitched into cloth. Then Peter asked everyone to leave the room. Silence returned. The apostle knelt beside Tabitha's body and prayed. Outside, mourners waited anxiously. Moments passed. Then Peter turned toward her and spoke softly. "Tabitha, arise." And suddenly, her eyes opened. She looked at Peter and sat up. Life returned where death had entered. Hope burst into the room like sunlight after a storm. Cries of sorrow became cries of amazement. The widows who had mourned now rejoiced. The woman whose kindness had clothed others had been clothed again with life itself. News spread rapidly through Joppa, and many people believed in the Lord because of what happened that day. But perhaps the greatest miracle had started long before Tabitha was raised. It began with ordinary kindness, a needle, a thread, a willing heart. The world often celebrates loud voices, famous names, and public achievements. But heaven notices quiet faithfulness, The unseen sacrifice, the gentle encouragement, the meal shared with someone in need, the message sent at the right moment, the prayer whispered for another person. Small acts become eternal seeds when placed in God's hands. Tabitha never ruled a kingdom. She never led armies. She never wrote books. Yet her quiet influence became powerful enough that an entire city mourned her loss. And centuries later, her story still lives. Because kindness leaves fingerprints on eternity. Maybe your acts feel small. Maybe no one applauds your service. Maybe your kindness seems unnoticed. But every encouraging word, every sacrifice, every hidden act of compassion matters more than you realize. God sees the quiet work, and sometimes the smallest needle can stitch together a legacy that never dies.
If you enjoy this video, please subscribe, like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for watching.